Oh, it says triggered. Trigger level. Scale. Okay. Scale.
Welcome to my hobby channel. This is part 2 of the Yamaha RX500 saga. I hope it ends up in a repair. What I'm doing in this video that you're seeing at the start is I've got there's a 99-cent ESR tester design up on the internet that I built a number of years ago. I pulled the two large smoothing caps for the B plus and B minus voltage supplies, and I'm testing them. So let me take a second, throw up the link to the ESR tester webpage, which is no longer up, but it's on the old Wayback Machine link. So I'll put that up now. So the way this ESR tester works is that basically you put your capacitor under test in parallel with a resistor, and the output of the there's basically a signal generator that's generating a square wave, and you see how the capacitor affects the output. And basically a capacitor should have very low series resistance. So it should have basically that square wave should stay pretty consistent with in parallel with that resistor. And with the testing I did with these two capacitors on this that I pulled out of the circuit, I desoldered them, put them in on the ESR tester, and you can see the square wave on the screen, on the oscilloscope screen. Basically, the capacitors look fine. I also used a ohm meter to check the resistance, just a straight resistance, and there was infinity. So it appears to me these two capacitors are good. So here I had checked, even though this thing had burned a hole in the board, the capacitors checked good, the rectifier diodes checked good. So let me pop up a picture of the hole in the board it burnt. Pretty big hole, huh? So I was looking at this, and so here's where things started to go wrong in my my evaluation of the problem with this board. I thought, based on this hole, that the copper foil was all from one circuit. And basically this is after I had attached a wire and as part of the debug effort, but there was the other side of this board basically this is a single layer board, so the other side uses jumpers that connect different traces. There were the ends of 3 different jumper wires hanging out in this hole when I first looked at it. Unfortunately, I didn't get a picture of it. But I assumed that all these were out of one circuit. And so I decided, okay, what's next? It's not the rectifier diodes. It's not the main smoothing caps. I didn't see any other damaged components. So I decided to look at the schematic and figure out what's connected to this circuit. And the other point is in this hole where that red wire's now connected, that is B plus coming out of the rectifier diodes, and basically one corner of the output of the rectifier diodes B plus, which is about 49 volts, and the other corner is B minus, and they're basically the power supply to the output amplifier circuit. So I had My assumption here, based on the burning and charring on this board, is something had happened on B+. So I went to digging around. Where did these burned up jumper wires, where did they connect to? So unfortunately, the scan of the service manual, you basically couldn't make out what was going on in that area, section of the board, from the scan of the PCB. So then I decided I'd pull up the schematic. So here's the schematic. Basically interesting section, and I have it highlighted in purple where B+ comes out of the rectifier diodes. You can see just near that C405 the smoothing cap for the B+, and just below that the smoothing cap for B-. So if you follow that purple line around, one of the first things that goes to is a transistor called Q125, which I determined actually was Q215. It was basically a mistake in the schematics that it was labeled 125. It really should have been 215. So I decided to take a look at that transistor. I checked it in circuit with a diode tester, and it basically looked okay. So then I decided to pull it off, and when I pulled it off, one thing about these capacitors is they were glued in with this corrosive glue, and as I pulled this transistor off, the one of the legs broke. And so, aha, was my first thought. The that leg probably, you know, fell apart, and for some reason it caused the circuit to go into overdrive, and that's why it burned up the circuit. So at this point I decided, well, let me show you a picture of the transistor. So you can clearly see how the middle leg on that thing was fried, and so I figured, oh, this is the problem. And so I basically ordered off of eBay a replacement transistor, and somebody sold them in pairs. So I decided, well, there was another transistor in that circuit right next to it, so that had the other part of the pair that they sold on eBay. So I ordered a couple of transistors and put this thing aside until I got the transistors, and figured when it comes back, then I'll be golden. So while I was waiting for the parts to come, I rewired the burned out section, and basically I wired, like I said, there were 3 dangling wires there, jumper wires, and as you can see in the picture, basically what I did is I wired everything over to B+ on the leg of the rectifier diode, and then from that point on, basically all I had to do was put in put the rectifier diode back in, put the big caps back in, put the Q215 in it, and in this picture I've actually put the new one in already. I've already got it back in this particular picture. So I just basically waited for the parts to come in the mail. It took about a week or so, and I plugged it in, and basically with this, one little note here, with the chassis open like this, I didn't feel real comfortable with sticking my hands around there powering it up. So what I did is I put the power switch on and basically plugged it in to turn it on, rather than turn it on with the power switch, because the power switch is back there by the transformer. And as soon as I plugged it in, it went poof, the main fuse blew, and things went bad. So at that point, it was like my initial repair. I was like, oh my God, should I just junk this thing? It can't be worth much. or should I continue to try to fix it? And I put it aside for a couple days, and I decided, okay, I'm gonna make this thing work. I know I can do it. So at this point, I'm gonna end this little segment, and we'll go on to the next step of trying to fix this Yamaha RX500 stereo receiver.